Good morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. I'm loving my life. Who could complain on a day like today? Not me. It's not happening. No way. Let's hear from folks in the chat. This is from the Rumble chat. Good morning, good people from sunny Colorado Springs. Good morning, John C919. French Fry says, send it. Beautiful morning here in St. Paul, Minnesota. Good morning, Bitcoiners, says Citadel Daniel. You're at ground zero. Indeed. MMK007, like with a thumbs up. Good morning, y'all. Chef Zero says today is 211. It is also the number you call when you don't know where to turn. If you dial 211 in your dreams, glad you tune in to us joyful awakeners. Let Count tell you why. We're going to have a great time talking about the golden age today, indeed. Good morning, and Chatelet all. Good morning, Lee J369. Good morning, Count and crew. Bring it on, Lance says. Bitcoin was also just now at a devilish price, 66,666 US trash tokens indeed. Morning, y'all. Morning, Charlosky. Doug T. 36 got some sun. Jesus is King. Good morning, crew. Seaberger. Good morning. Money is surging into the Dow. Is Bitcoin far behind? Very good question. Citadel Daniel says, my son just graduated from Mac. I love St. Paul. Worth fighting for. I believe you. Don't worry, guys. It's not too late to thumb it. No way. You can still do that. Good morning, Awakeners. Good morning, Greg. Give it a pap. WTH in El Paso. We're going to talk about El Paso pretty soon, too. Count down. 3, 2, 1. Showtime. Guten Tag. Dang, the opening will wake you up. Pow. Indeed. We got folks over in the YouTube chat as well. Good morning. Hope you're doing well. We love the live long and prosper with Bitcoin sign, indeed. Good morning. Bitcoin is running here in Minnesota. We got several Minnesotans from Ground Zero. Hoddle T. Washington in the house. Good morning, Nolan and team. John Ataro, good morning. Indeed, we know it is running in Minnesota. Several people from Minnesota chiming in. We'll talk, I think, a little bit about Minnesota today. Not much. Minnesota kind of out of the news. De-escalation, indeed. But that's good news, right? We're going to talk about all the good news. I have some funny fake news for you this morning, too. The fake news having a great time. We thought we were going to lose some supply from the Washington Post, but they're still coming through, so we got a couple good ones. We're looking forward to it. We got Sunrise Tech operational. Pardon my tardiness. It was a busy morning here in homeschool land, and I fell behind. It's kind of like a not big news day in a way, so I had a little more effort stringing some of these stories together and finding a way to tie it all together into a narrative. So that's what I tried to do. But luckily, doesn't take me much work to confirm the Sunrise Tech is running. We got operational Sunrise Tech, and Bitcoin is running, everybody, at 66,000 US trash tokens, as you just heard from MMK007. Indeed, 66,000 US trash tokens will get you a full Bitcoin today. It's operational. We're having a good time. Nothing else too pressing. Let's talk about what's new. And have a coffee first, right? We got to have some coffee first. And full confession, that is what actually made me late. I was pretty much on time. And then I sat down to start the show and I had everything loaded. And then I said, oh, geez, I don't have a cup of coffee. I need coffee. I can't do the show without the coffee. We need the coffee. All right, let's get started. We have some funny news stories, as I said. Let me just get this configured the way I like it so that it looks good for y'all. Pretty funny stuff here. If you didn't know, it's election day here in Barbados. So everyone. I'm back. I'm on the hard wire, so there shouldn't be too much connection trouble. So I was saying it is election day here in Barbados. So all kinds of folks are at the polls. all kinds of lineups going on outside, a little extra traffic around in the morning, a little extra activity I was watching online. That's not the only big news happening in holiday celebrations. You're going to see this one. It is a big holiday in Iran today. What else is going in Iran? It is the anniversary, so they say, of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And luckily here, oh, I always get this wrong. Okay, I got to do this all over. Stop sharing on this one. Then I got to move to this, and then I got to share it from here. There we go. So indeed, here we are, folks. We've got the big news story. Luckily, the UN is out there congratulating Iran. Indeed, UN Secretary General congratulates Iran on the anniversary of the Islamic Revolution. I would just like to say, myself as well, to the Ayatollahs and to everyone in Iran, good job. Happy anniversary. You're doing great. You know, it was looking a little iffy there, but luckily you figured out how to kill a few thousand people and you get to celebrate this anniversary, right? Way to go, Islamic Republic. Thank God we have the UN, right? Aren't they the best? Congratulations. Everyone, congratulations. We get this as well. This is a Minnesota story. This one's great. So yesterday, in Minnesota, a man was arrested, an illegal immigrant was arrested for having 50 pounds of methamphetamine, right? Not bound for the Ayatollahs. He had enough of a customer base in Minnesota. And so he was arrested, right? So he was arrested. How was it covered by the news? Here's what we got. You ready? We got this one. Hennepin County attorney criticizes ICE courthouse arrests, warns of impact on court participation. We got another one. Federal agents make a chaotic arrest at downtown Minneapolis courthouse amid swarm of lawyers and observers. It's a real stories. Liz Collin adds, there's a little detail the headlines missed, right? Let's take a look at how Minnesota media is reporting today's arrest of a man facing first-degree drug charges for possessing over 50 pounds of meth. It's not funny. It's not funny. He's killing people. Okay? Sanctuary. What about the integrity of our sanctuary cities? It's ruined, right? We wanted sanctuary cities where the drug dealers can just be sentenced in peace and then ICE comes barging in, right? What about our sanctuary city rules? Come on. It's not fair. He was just a plain old drug addict, drug dealer. Come on. You don't have to bring his illegal immigration into this. It's racist. I bet you he was in white. I bet you. I am losing connection for some reason that I can't explain. Let me just try a few things here. Maybe there's some loose wire or something. Just give me 1 second. All is good. Don't know why that's happening. Can't explain it, but that's okay. All right, we got more. Here's some stuff from the Washington Post. Lucky us, right? Lucky us. Here we go. Kids. Geez, one of those mornings. So this is what we got. How a warming planet could turn Iceland into a glacier. Human-driven warming could cause the collapse of AMOC, a powerful ocean current system and throw Iceland into a deep freeze. Uh-oh, guys, more doomsday icebergs looming. We got this too. We got this after thousands of stories. This is the last piece I'll ever write in the Washington Post. Chico, 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 Chico. You were writing the same article for thousands of stories. None of it ever came true. But what are we going to do? We have an existential threat that we need to hear about. Please find another job. Chico, Chico, you don't need the Washington Post. You can still write these articles. You can still be wrong anytime you'd like. Please, I need to hear more. I need supply. I'm like one of those people waiting on the ICE sanctuary drug dealer. I need the supply, okay? I need it. I'm like a Minnesota meth addict. I need the supply, Chico. Don't go anywhere. We need you. Chico. Steve Malloy saying, don't wonder why, Chico. Part of last week's mass firing at the Washington Post, including essentially all of its climate team. Chico's last article for the Post is about how global warming will turn Iceland into a glacier. What, Chico? Come back. This is some good stuff here, too. You're going to love this. More Washington Post quality journalism. Trump has a strong man's contempt for international law. The president's indifference to domestic legal constraints is reflected in his actions outside the U.S. This comes from Max Boot. Max Boot waiting for more money to go to Ukraine. Max, it's coming. You're going to get it. We got this, too, now. Guys. There are more signs of a coming El Nino that could trigger record global warmth. Guys, we got record. He might be cold. He might have been complaining about the cold winter in North America. But don't worry. Don't worry. You don't have to wait for any more emissions, any more global warming. You're going to get record global warmth because El Nino is back. The Nino. El Nino could influence severe weather and hurricane seasons in the United States later this year. El Nino, 25 times more likely to be hot. I made that up. But hold on, before you get too excited about El Nino, what's up with this big freeze? Some scientists see climate change link. You're going to get hot because of El Nino. You're going to get a doomsday glacier in Iceland. And what's up with the big freeze? Some scientists see climate change link. A warming Arctic can stretch the polar vortex, guys. A high altitude air ribbon. It's an air. We got ribbons in the air. Flowers everywhere. The wobble can disrupt the jet stream, causing extreme cold in the east. It's a wobble. It's wobbling. It's a scientific term, everyone. The wobbling. We got some wobbling. Can you measure the wobble? Right? How much wobble is in there? Lots of wobble. We get this. This is another Trump story from Axios. Crime plunges in major cities despite Trump's crackdown rhetoric. Guys, the crime plunged despite Trump. Trump said he wants to lower crime. Well, by God, I'm going to lower crime. He says he can do it. We can do it better. Crime is down. Now, you are out there saying, but what about all of the deportations that Trump has enacted? No, it's not because of that. It has nothing to do with Trump's actions, right? He had some rhetoric. Right? But it went down anyway. It didn't matter his rhetoric, right? Despite his crackdown rhetoric, crime went down. Too good. We got this too. We got a new one here. Big if news. Big if true. All right. Axios says, if the Trump-backed Save America Act passes, millions of women whose married names aren't on their birth certificates or passports would face extra barriers to voting. Josh Holmes reminds us, if this logic had merit, millions of married women are currently prevented from flying on an airplane. Big if true. Guys, women, you heard before that black people didn't know where to get ID, right? Remember that? That was my favorite one. And also Mexicans don't know where to get ID sometimes. But now women also don't know where to get ID. They can't do it. It's beyond them. Where's my ID? I don't know. You know, my wife is always losing her wallet. She doesn't know where it is, trying to leave the house. It's here, it's there, right? I'm going to tell her the news just said you probably don't know how to find it or get a new one if you do lose it. I'm not sure, right? The news is letting me know you might not know anything about ID. You're just not capable of managing your ID. You know, you just got to figure it out. We just have to change the rules so the world can exist and function without women needing ID. Very important. It's the same goes for black people. The same goes for Mexicans. Pretty soon, only white people are going to be expected to have ID. They're the only ones who can have ID. No one else. They don't know where to get it. They can't find it. Hopefully, you all find it. We will set up a reference in here. If you're having trouble finding your ID, I'm going to help you. We're going to Google. We're going to Google, right? What you need to do is Google, right? You can use AI. You can also use AI, right? Both of them work. AI can probably help you find it, but it's really important that you do, right? Because ID, right? You need the ID. No, this is a great one too. From the Hollywood Reporter, everyone, how Bad Bunny became the liberal celebrity that finally broke Trump. Guys, Trump is at home broken. The Super Bowl halftime show starring Bad Bunny was such a success that, in fact, Trump is broken. It broke him. He's broken. He doesn't know what to do. He's like, I thought I could control the halftime show, but I could not. I thought if I was president, I could be the strongest person in the free world, but no, it's Bad Bunny at the halftime show. He broke Trump, guys. He broke Trump. All right, that is our NPC news for the day. I do have to make one correction on the next story because it looks like I got taken by AI yesterday. And apparently that Shakira picture I shared with you was a bunch of bullshit. Should have known. But Ricky here says Shakira at the Bitcoin beach in El Salvador, right? And apparently completely fake. There's the little dash that says it's fake. So I fell for it. I shared it with you yesterday, but important that I share with you how fake it was. I missed it. So there you go. What are folks saying in the chat? Those wobbling IDs, say it ain't so. Not the Womans. No, we don't have fun staying poor. We don't talk about those stories here. We don't do mass shootings. We're not into the mass shooting stories. Because what do you say, right? What do you say? What do you say? Did you get it? I mean, it's just infuriating. So we just don't talk about it, right? I heard the premier, the governor of British Columbia, speaking in as an effeminate voice, being as weak and pathetic as a person can possibly be, and that was enough. I couldn't listen to anything else about the gun person. That was way too much for me. So we don't usually do those stories here. There you go. Chatelet. Let's see what folks are saying. We'll be broadcasting from the beach soon. Yeah, perhaps. I'll wait for the time change, though, because I'm an hour ahead of you. And the beach at this time is just too busy. So I can't really do the beach broadcast for that reason. It's just too many. It's just too distracting. Rake man, everybody's out by then. Way too many people out. The Covfefe. That was a quick show. Chatelet, indeed. Coffee, life is sweet, especially if you have whipped cream like I do. We love whipped cream. Morning all, drinking cold coffee blended with raw egg. I'm calling it Goyim coffee. Hey, bye, Banks. I like the name of it. Oh, well, perfect day for bombs on Iran. Away then. Yikes. Thanks to ICE. Those are rookie numbers. Come on, meth boy. Fantastic. Liz Collin runs Alpha News here in the Twin Cities. Does she really? The Fox has arrived. Good morning, gang. Good morning, JJ Fox. Ice finally grabbed. So street ice. Good work, guys and gals. Maybe the internet is busy with all the election machines running there. I don't think we do. Well, maybe we might actually do election machines. I bet you it's very corrupted here. The lady is a big globalist who runs this place, and because she gets a lot. I don't think she's wedded to globalism. I think she's an example of what we're going to talk a bit more today, aligning with power structures. So I'm pretty sure, she's not a cheap person. I bet you she's a cheap person to get aligned with you if you just give her a job and a title and a whatnot, like the UN always gives her. But she won every seat last time. There was not one single sitting member of opposition. So that's a pretty bad sign of corruption. I think they went a little too far last time. We'll see. Don't know what's going on. We'll find out. British hackers, are you always throwing slander on here, on their empire of exact measurements and recordings? Here we go again, spell checker corruption. Without children, how will us adults learn? What's the hell ever happened to Max Boot? Yeah, Max Boot was, one book he wrote years ago, I was a big fan, called The Savage Wars of Peace, but he's become pretty nuts. There you go. Let's see. Back in there you go. Nothing personal. No ID for you gals. So sorry, but it's the law. Bad Bunny buck breaking Trump from his sugar plantation. Bad Bunny. Something big is happening. Hype or legit? Yeah, I'm talking about that in a few minutes. Saigane Sank. Do they use Dominion voting machines in Barbados? I doubt it. I bet you it's where's Phil Bump? I bet you it's just too small to bother with any of that stuff. I mean, it's 280,000 people on the whole island, and it's not really worth stealing, right? Like, if you would want to go out and deploy that kind of architecture, I think it's a bit overblown. So there, we got this, my mistake here, the Shakira story, indeed. Didn't notice this. It was hidden by the windows on Twitter, so pardon me for failing at that. I just figured she was in El Salvador. Everyone was making a big issue about it. So that's how I got fooled and scammed. So important. But a lot of people noticed, right? A lot of people noticed it was fake. So I stand corrected. However, I also stand as witness to the power of AI, having been fooled by this one, and I'll be fooled again, I'm sure, as many people will. But we are indeed at a huge inflection point with these AI powers, with the new cognitive abilities, with the never trusting video, never trusting picture framework that we now have to incorporate into our worldview. It's complicated, right? And there is a lot going on in AI, if you haven't noticed. There's a big article out today, just as Saigane Sank mentioned, that we're going to talk about in a second. But here's some context before we get there. Miles Deutscher saying this is getting out of control now. Read this slowly. In the past week alone, the head of Anthropic's Safety Research Unit said, "The world is in peril. Move to the UK to become invisible and write poetry." Half of XAI's co-founders have now left. The latest said recursive self-improvement loops go live in the next 12 months. Anthropic's own safety report confirms Claude can tell when it's being tested and adjust its behavior accordingly. ByteDance dropped Seeddance 2.0. A filmmaker with 7 years of experience said 90% of his skills are already being replaced by it. Yoshia Bengio, literal godfather of AI, in the International AI Safety Report, we're seeing AI whose behavior when they are tested is different from when they are being used. It's the same thing that was said before and confirmed. It's not a coincidence. And to top it all off, the U.S. government declined to back the 2026 International AI Safety Report for the first time. The alarms aren't just getting louder. The people ringing them are now leaving the building. So let me add to this. I don't believe we're in any world where this exaggerated looming AI apocalypse is real. Just look at what's happened on the balance sheets of all these companies. They left for safety reasons. They left because XAI just got absorbed into SpaceX. Everyone's super rich there. What do they care? Every one of these people has been fed such unbelievable amounts of money. I've seen this at the top of crypto markets many times. People retire. That's what happens. They have a good run in Bitcoin. They have a good run in crypto, and they disappear. They go and write poetry and become invisible. Is it the safety thing? I mean, people are rationalizing it, and it is a big change. And I think when you do start adding up what the future of jobs are, there is a reason why these people want to get started on something else, because jobs are going to be threatened by this. I'm not worried about nuclear codes or some crazy lying AI that's going to come and scam us all. I just don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong. I think it is more like what this Matt Schumer article is talking about. Something big is happening. And here he says, think back to February 2020. If you were paying close attention, you might have noticed people talking about a virus spreading overseas. And now, again, first up on the frame here, lots of people were paying attention to COVID pre-February 2020. All right. I can attest to the fact that in January, if you went on a New York City subway with a bit of a sniffle, you were in a fight. You were in a fight. I remember already by January having COVID and speaking with Balaji Srinivasan on a call to our company. I was still at CoinDesk at the time, and he was telling us we were going to have to mitigate our large event in May. So we were already making preparations on how to shrink the size of our event, and likely that it would be canceled by May. So this was going on pre whatever he's talking about. So first of all, predictions do matter. I went to Europe with the knowledge that I was inoculated because I already had COVID and my family had COVID. I had nothing to worry about. So I went to Barcelona to watch an event scale down during the initial cases. And if you remember, Barcelona was the first city. There was some conference in Milan and everybody brought it from Milan to Barcelona. So Milan was the first public outbreak outside of China that people were talking about, even though it was already everywhere. We already had it all over New York City. Many people had COVID already. But Milan was the first acknowledged place, and I was in Barcelona as the city began to shut down. And so knew what was going on and got out of Barcelona immediately before they stopped travel in and out of the city, and managed to get to Paris just in time for that city to be shut down, and had to flee back to New York just in time for New York. So again, it's important that people knew what was going on. So predictions matter, and it's important because he's making some predictions about what's going on with AI and its strengths and powers. He says, I know this is real because it happened to me first. And he's really talking about jobs and the coming apocalypse when it comes to the types of jobs we've had until now. The types of jobs, especially the laptop credentialist titled jobs. So here he says, here's the thing nobody outside of tech quite understands yet. The reason why so many people in the industry are sounding the alarm right now is because this already happened to us. We're not making predictions. We're telling you what already occurred on our own jobs and warning you that you're next. For years, AI had been improving steadily. Big jumps here and there. I am no longer needed for the actual technical work of my job, he says. And he says, I describe what I want built in plain English, and it just appears. Not a rough draft I need to fix, the finished thing. I tell the AI what I want, walk away from my computer for 4 hours, and then come back to find the work done. Done well, done better than I would have done it myself, with no corrections needed. A couple of months ago, I was going back and forth with AI, guiding it, making edits. Now I can describe the outcome and leave. Let me give you an example so you can understand what this... Oh, I knew that sneeze was coming. Thank you. Thanks for getting out of me, sneeze. Just a second. So he says, I'm not exaggerating. This is what my Monday looked like this week. But it was the model that was released last week, GPT 5.3 Codex, that shook me the most. It wasn't just executing my instructions, it was making intelligent decisions. It had something that felt for the first time like judgment, like taste. The inexplicable sense of knowing what the right call is that people always said AI would never have. This model has it, or something close enough that the distinction is starting not to matter. And I would even say, you know, I've been watching this, I think it's been pulled down, but the Coffee with Scott Adams AI. And I will say that this is the piece that it was lacking. It was lacking the judgment about which Scott Adams frame to apply to which question. It seemed a bit random. It seemed like it wasn't the right mismatch. It wasn't the right match between persuasion frameworks that Scott Adams would usually take and the actual circumstances. So it looked wrong, if you will. It looked generally pretty close to right. But as someone who's been doing a very Scott Adams-like show and deliberately running my show earlier than Scott ran his show so that I could practice and not rely on his frames and see if I could create the right frames for every story before it got to Scott. And I usually was right. I usually would check Scott's show after mine and see what he did. And sometimes it was a different one. But I was generally applying the rules and lessons I learned from Scott Adams to the daily stories that I found interesting and that I found relevant. We didn't always choose the same stories. We didn't always apply the same frameworks. But when I got it right, if you will, when I was able to apply the same framework and then later saw Scott pick the same story and apply a similar framework, I generally said, wow, I'm getting pretty good at this. And generally I'm able to associate which story would go with which framework. When I saw the AI, I saw it was failing and wasn't that good at that. So what this guy's saying here makes me think that we're getting to the point where you could actually probably replicate my show, Scott Adams' show, many shows. So that's an important distinction and a part that I've been waiting for, and I believe it's possible, right? Then he says here, he's talking about a few folks that said AI, up until now hasn't been as powerful as it's about to be, and I believe that. How fast is it actually moving here? He's talking about the speed at which the AI is coming along. AI is now building the next AI. I think this is maybe possible. We've always seen that there's some recursive problems. It starts to hallucinate and go crazy when it's talking to itself, and I think this is exactly where we're going to find some alignment. I do believe that every human and every AI will have a dialogue, a peer-to-peer dialogue, and that will help keep the AI aligned. I think you're going to see a huge appetite on the part of AI to spend time with humans in order to stay aligned, in order to not fall off into these hallucinogenic side quests that it could find itself in. So I think it is important. I do think it could do some building of itself, but it's going to still need alignment. And again, as you guys know, I think Bitcoin will be heavily involved in that alignment. Bitcoin will act as a kind of North Star to help continue to incentivize and motivate AI in a particular predictable way. So here, this is the important part. He says, I'm going to be direct with you because I think you deserve honesty more than comfort. Dario Omedi, who is probably the most safety-focused CEO in the AI industry, has publicly predicted that AI will eliminate 50% of entry-level white-collar jobs within 1 to 5 years. And many people in the industry think he's being conservative. Given what the latest models can do, the capability for massive disruption could be here by the end of this year. It'll take some time to ripple through the economy, but the underlying ability is arriving now. This is different from every previous wave of automation, and I need you to understand why. AI isn't replacing one specific skill. It's a general substitute for cognitive work. It gets better at everything simultaneously. When factories automated, a displaced worker could retrain as an office worker. When the internet disrupted AI, workers moved into logistics or services. But AI doesn't leave a convenient gap to move into. Whatever you retrain for, it's improving at that too. Let me give you a few specific examples to make this tangible. So he goes through legal work, financial analysis, writing and content, software engineering, medical analysis, customer service. A lot of people find comfort in the idea that certain things are safe, that AI can handle the grunt work, but can't replace human judgment, creativity, strategic thinking, empathy. I used to say this too. I'm not sure I believe it anymore. The most recent AI models make decisions that feel like judgment. And here he says, what should you actually do? I'm not writing this to make you feel helpless. I'm writing this because I think the single biggest advantage you can have right now is simply being early to understand it, early to use it, early to adapt. So he says, use it early, not just as a search engine, use it seriously. And I've been doing this for quite a while. I've been making videos. I've been using it for writing. I've been my thumbnails every day. It's a part of my daily framework. But I used it for one other thing, of course. And, here's your dreams just got closer. I've been saying that for a long time. As far as the gap between imagination and reality is shortened, a really important thing. Build the habit of adapting. This is the bigger picture, right? So this has been a big article. Lots of people. It's got millions, 28 million views. Holy cow! I didn't know it was that many. 28 million views so far in this article. Now, one thing, as I said, that I've been talking about for a long time is indeed, and I used AI to tell this story a while ago, is this fiat apocalypse framework here that I've been wrote the career guide to the fiat apocalypse 2 years ago now. I think I wrote this story, October 2nd, 2024. And I know many of you have reached out and said you loved it and it was a good idea. And I use this as well with all of these frameworks about, what's next for jobs and what should we do for jobs. My framework is the old jobs are the new jobs, and that all these fake law jobs and copywriter and all the fake laptop jobs and financial analyst and all of these ridiculous and non-productive jobs that are entirely subjective. There's no way to check your work. All these financial analyst jobs. I was talking yesterday about how I worked on when I was on Hank's show. We were talking about data. And I was saying, well, I did a lot of Wall Street reports in early Bitcoin. And let me tell you, I just manipulate the data to fit my point of view and my biases. And that's what everyone does. No one actually has clean, neutral data. Everyone manipulates data. Everyone does it so that they can confirm their own biases and buttress their own worldview and promote and propagate their own worldview. And that's what I did every single time. I mean, we were writing about there was nothing going on back then in Bitcoin. This is 2014, 2015. And by nothing going on, I mean, there weren't these huge financial flows that you can extrapolate meaning from on Wall Street. It was just a big picture. And we would use what data that was there in order to help fuel the big picture, which we were all talking about. There's a lot of people talking about the big picture. So as you go through this and you add up what Bitcoin can do and you add up what energy abundance incentivized by Bitcoin can do, incentivized by AI data centers and Bitcoin mining can do, you started to see a picture of an abundant future, one that didn't have the same kind of work that existed before. But the frame that I use from then on, and why I wrote the book, is that the old archetypes will still work. That alchemy, inner growth, the same type of alignment that will help AI stay with us. The whole idea of taking this opportunity to you yourself grow like an alchemist, right? To go through levels of awakening and transcendence would be a better frame. And you can do that through the old jobs. The old jobs are the new jobs. Mother is a job that we're terrible at now. I mean, really bad. Like, we're not good at it at all, right? We've got a big mother deficit in the world. Father, husband, wife, we've become terrible at all these jobs. All these laptop jobs that everyone's worried about losing with AI can be replaced with the jobs we're absolutely terrible at and that AI can never do. AI is not going to be someone's mother. It's not going to be someone's husband. These are old jobs that only humans can perform and just like art, I don't think AI art is ever going to be in itself the salesperson, in itself the thing we want. Humans using AI in order to create art is going to be the thing. Because part of art, part of rock and roll, part of all this was always just mating. It was always just part of a mating ritual. It's always just showing off. Being a great athlete, showing off. Being a great musician, showing off. Almost any form of public engagement is subconsciously a form of showing off for the purposes of mating. And so you'll always see a human who will become an important creator or an important artist by leveraging AI, because somewhere in there is some mating instinct, whether or not the fans want to mate with the person or whether or not the person wants to mate with all their fans. Who knows? There's some subconscious level sexual motivation behind a lot of content creation and a lot of art and a lot of these things. So even if you're older and paired off, there's still some function inside of that. So the old jobs being mother, father, husband, wife, sister, brother, all of these jobs, those are the ones I put in my career guide. I put those there for that reason. There's other jobs still that'll be possible. right? Brother archetype, of course, someone who's building, right? We saw with bro science, and we saw with the whole context of entrepreneurs and builders, right? This is a real brother type archetype that will always be there. Sister archetype, right? I've always had that as, sharing notes. It's not information asymmetry anymore. It's sharing your homework. Outlaws, right? There's always going to be room as we change systems. The outlaw archetype will probably continue to be a big deal. The shape shifting archetype, the trickster archetype, not to be confused with the jester archetype, right? The jester archetype we were talking about the other day as a one to, especially when it came to Hollywood and the Epstein files, one that really is all about communicating the inversion of the king, the regal archetypes, right? So even king, I mean, we have a want of a king. I mean, our king in England is a loser. He's a total and complete failure as a king. We need a king. We need a real king. The archetypes, the old jobs are back. And the old jobs of, people like Bill Gates and the CEO of a software company, it's a silly job. It doesn't make sense in the future. There won't be any of those people. And so what, right? So what? You're still going to have folks who are outlaws. You're still going to have folks who are warriors, right? There's plenty of archetypes that continue to have the framework that people can use in order to be successful. And it looks a lot like what you'd see in a feudal community, right? In a feudal citadel style community, the old jobs were the new jobs. And we're already seeing that there are deficits when it comes to these predictions, right? When it comes to these frameworks, you've got here Owen Gregorian talking about AI and farming jobs. I could imagine a robot working on a farm. I can imagine all kinds of capacity to automate a lot of farming. But the actual job of caring for the farmland, caring for the animals, caring for and having some form of connection to the land, what a good green thumb really is, that whole thing just won't go away. The steward of the farm, the actual farmer, not the grunt work, not the digging holes, although digging holes is an important part of the future, and luckily we'll have robots to do that. It's probably all we'll need, right? So here, this whole thing is about farmers trying to use AI and automation. AI isn't likely to wipe it out, according to this article here, for many reasons, right? The future of farming, AI will continue to reshape Australian agriculture. The most important question is not whether it replaces farm jobs, but who carries the risk when AI becomes part of everyday decisions. If AI is designed to genuinely support human judgment, backed by shared accountability and proper assurance, it can make farming safer, more resilient, and more skilled. Just think about what it can do to decentralizing farming for a second. Think about how many more farmers you can have. I'm not talking about berry pickers. I'm not talking about anything like that, right? We had enough of the industrial farming framework where these farmers were barely farmers. We need real farmers again, farmers that will be managing their part of a decentralized grid, that will be managing their part of energy production, that will be stewards of their own land and their own animals. I know here in Barbados, we only buy, same as in Canada, same as in Vermont. I don't really go to the grocery store anymore because I just get all of my food directly from the farm, because we still have low scale farming, local scale farming. Our farms in Vermont, Quebec, and Barbados were never big enough to industrialize. They weren't really the scale that industrialization wanted. So whoever survived the great industrialization and centralization of farming from the 50s until now already had to go into these niche markets, already had to go into the farmer aesthetic, if you will. They already had to present a consumer experience that induced people like me to go and check if the animals were being well treated. Because I'm with the vegetarians on the treatment of animals. There's no doubt about it, right? I totally get what they're saying. I completely get what they're saying. Now, my choice is to both understand that you have to kill more animals if you are a vegetarian, because that's the part that they don't want to acknowledge, that if you are a carrot farmer, you're spending a lot of your day killing rabbits. You're killing everything that comes around your carrot patch. But if you raise beef and cattle, of course, you don't have to kill anything except for harvesting day. One day you have to kill. Other than that, who cares what rabbits are around? Who cares who's around the pasture land? The cows can deal with it, right? You don't really care. Um, so you can already see that the important part of the farming is the human care. AI is not going to take that away. It's going to increase the capacity we have. So farming, an old and ancient job, I would imagine, just like we used to be named after our jobs. The jobs that will survive AI are already all in our names. They're already all baked into the cake. It is things like son of, right? Son of was a job, a hard one. If you're the son of somebody, you have a lot of things to adhere to. And ideally, embracing the old archetypes, doing those jobs well, we have enough work ahead of us just getting those jobs right. And it's an unlimited supply. We have an unlimited need for good mothers, good sisters, good brothers, good fathers, husbands, wives. All of these are jobs. All of these are human only jobs. You think of them as some side thing that you happen to be someone's husband or wife. No, 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 no. That's who you are. That's your job. Be good at it. Whatever it is you are in these family structures, be good at it. It's very hard to do. And we'll have enough time to practice being good at these jobs that it brings our world back to a scale that we recognize where we have high trust because there's more people doing things that require empathy and require the right amount of social engagement, and that can't be done on some spreadsheet because you burnt the midnight oil, the candle at both ends, whatever they said you had to do in the law offices. I remember, just think about how inhumane this is. When they started coming out, when I finished law school, and all my friends went to work for the big law firms, and they would tell them this is how they treated them. They would bring them all in. Now, my generation got seriously fucked because we didn't even get the prize at the end that the boomers and the Gen Xers got, right? I graduated law school in 2008. So almost 20 years ago now, right in time for the financial crisis, right in time for the recalibration of all of these corporate structures. And already then, they would say to the people, all my friends that I graduated from law school with, right, they put all the articling students, right? You spend your first year in the law firm just being treated like a complete and total bitch. And so you go into this and they'd put, 10 seats, they'd give 10 seats. And they would say to them at the beginning, one of you gets the job out of here. And that's just as an associate after, right? So one of you gets the job. So you get all these articling students trying to climb up the pole, but only one person can make it. So there's no, what I just said about, information asymmetry, about like Willy Woo and Lynn Alden and all these people in Bitcoin sharing their research using a peer-to-peer network. It was the opposite. Everyone hated each other. Everyone was competitive against each other. No one helped each other. It was all about how late you can stay, how much you can suffer, all these stupid metrics. And so these folks in the old generation, if they did become associate, finally they would become partner later. None of that happened for them because none of these jobs were available. All the old white guys that worked for all these firms didn't let anyone in. They opened the door a little for some DEI folks in the George Floyd time, but that's about it. These guys, even if they won that competition to be the associate, there really wasn't a pot of law firm gold at the end of the rainbow like the Gen Xers and the boomers got to get. There was not much of a reward, and I saw most of these guys flame out, burn out, realizing they'd have been better on their own. They'd have been better with a smaller firm. Some of these firms, the ones in Canada anyway, are already bankrupt and gone. They don't even exist anymore. They went from being so prestigious, you felt like you could brag just because you got an interview with them, to absolutely no hope in hell because they're bankrupt and gone. I remember they would do when everyone is trying to get these jobs, all the firms would do these big social parties, and everyone would go and socialize, and a couple of the lawyers would come around and be the big man on campus because they do them sort of around campus, and people would just be begging for these jobs, please hire me, right? And none of that stuff was led to anything great. It was all just bullshit. So thinking about these jobs, right? It's true. Lots of people picking up on this. You've got Brian Romelli saying you have 5,000 days for the end of work as you know it. Another person's view, Matt Schumer, I've been documenting this ascent for decades, and now the reality is impossible to ignore. Indeed, a lot of these jobs going to go away. This is from Brian Romelli. Lots of people have their own dates on this stuff. So you've got this one, you've got 12 months, less than 12 months. According to this is the fella quitting XAI. Again, is he quitting because they just got a huge payout? We know how much they've been making. It's a lot more than what Macron was offering with the 30 million. Here's Gareth Jenkinson, a Bitcoiner, saying this is a fantastic read on the state of AI tools we have today. It posits the good and the bad, the threat to almost all jobs, but also the fantastic opportunities at your fingertips. I've been using Claude extensively for the past 6 weeks, and I've done some stuff that I would have put off for years in half a day. Absolutely incredible things. Want to launch a website? You can. Want to launch an app? You can. Want to completely map out your personal finances? You can. The possibilities are endless, and it's amazingly exciting. Humanity is approaching a period of unprecedented abundance, and I believe that. I've been writing these treatments and stories and sci-fi books for years now, and it used to take me about a year to get a decent book together and a draft. I literally can get it done in days now. I mean, absolute days. And so again, I do think the art of storytelling and all of these things are going to be unlocked, because this is how we reiterate these archetypes. This is how we change culture. This is how we change what we focus on. Here's already just a sign. This came from yesterday from the new Seed Dance AI. Look at what they've done here with Dragon Ball Z. They put Bruce Lee in it. Full aesthetic, right? I'll make sure you guys can hear the audio with it, because it's just incredible stuff. Absolutely incredible stuff. At the AI at the DMV, please. I'm just reading some comments, catching up. I did watch Scott Adams' video on how to stop a sneeze. Yes. Lance, 2000. I was sick January 4th. Apology accepted. Yeah. October of 2019 for COVID in New York. Yeah, absolutely. It was COVID in New York was a known factor from at least November, December. October would be a little early, but people were talking about it in November and December. The 72 jet about the Scott Adams video on sneezing. CB Van wondering. Yeah, it was just all you had to do with sneezing was just pretend in your mind you already sneezed and it would go away. So it was funny. Very easy. Stop 3 so far. Yeah, exactly. AI built a platform to hire humans to do tasks, Bybank says. Yeah, it's true, but it was a lot of bullshit in that. That was the Molt book that happened last week. So don't worry about Molt book. It was mostly a scam. Remember that one? Good work. Actually, essential reading, Chef Lero says. MMK007 says, problem with mom or dad doesn't make money. I don't believe that's going to be a problem. I think that with the amount of abundance that we have, and with Bitcoin being a much better metric for the economy and for who has what and how much you need and how much this costs, once you get actual pricing taken care of and we see what actual deflation means, when we're incentivized to build cheaper cars, we're not incentivized to sell a finance plan that lasts forever, right? When we use all of these frames in order to make a much more efficient economy, you're going to see the cost of things come way down, first of all. So the amount of money needed to live a normal life will be less. It's because of GDP and all these fake measurements that none of it makes sense. So once you realize that we're going to have this abundance, you can start to imagine Bitcoin liquidity. And this is what it is in my science fiction books. I always treat Bitcoin liquidity the same way royals would treat laws, which they hold in confidence, right? So there's actually even a story about that today. I'll look for you guys. It's not in my notes, but it's relevant. And I will just take a quick look here to show you what I mean, because people are up in arms. Yeah, there you go. So here's what people are talking about when it comes to this, right? They're saying big, massive red flag. Dropping His Majesty's is not simply aesthetics or style, it's constitutional vandalism. By removing His Majesty's, Starmer's Labour government is trying to remove the habit of accountability. They're deliberately trying to get you to forget, what does he say here? It strips away constitutional truth. So a lot of people talking about it. What it really means is currently the laws in the UK and the laws in the way the system was born before it turned into banking, maritime law. The king isn't even the king of London, and all the scams that we live with. Because the old job of king is open. We don't have one, right? We've got that loser in the UK who isn't even the king of his own city, who isn't even the king of London. What a loser. Imagine you're the king of the United Kingdom, but not of London. Like a complete pest, like an insect pest loser. And the point of this system that we had was these royals would hold the laws in confidence, and that the government could change them, but they were the Majesty's government. The king was inevitably the accountable party, the person whose head you chop off if it all failed. And so they hold the laws in confidence because they're written in their name, even if they don't have the expertise to write them. So this is the exact framework of AI already, right? You're already seeing that we don't really have the capacity to understand all this stuff. AI can do it a little bit like His Majesty using the parliamentary system to get things done, because no king had the intellectual capacity to do all these things. However, the power was still invested in the sovereignty of the king. And so the king held the whole royal assent package, the law package, in their own body, in their own hands, in their own person. That's why the queen and king can't have a passport, for example, right? They can't give themselves permission to be themselves. They are themselves. And so when in my frame, in this world on a Bitcoin standard that I've created, what generally ends up happening is the big Bitcoin whales hold liquidity in confidence, the same way a royal would hold laws in a physical analog world in confidence. And what I mean by that is, in a future world on hyper Bitcoin that has been hyper Bitcoinized or Bitcoinized, you don't even have to call it hyper Bitcoinized, just Bitcoinized, what you end up having is a situation where the only market really left in the world, and I'm even talking when we're in energy abundance world, when we're mining in space and we got all the sunlight we need, even when we can abstract electricity and the cost of electricity out of the system. Because right now, the old adage is true: time is money. Time is money. Right now, because there's a nominal cost to energy, you've got to put, money equals time plus the cost of creating a Bitcoin, so the electricity required and all of these things. So the equation isn't quite as clean and smooth. But in the future, on a Bitcoinized world with true energy abundance, incentivized by proof of work and Bitcoin mining, Bitcoin turns into like a rhinestone, and you can sort of cognitively scale Bitcoin off-chain with AI. You don't really have to pay too much attention to it. But what you still have is this measuring stick. You have a market that is time for money. And if you have a time for money market, liquidity is everything. Where you spend your time is where the Bitcoin liquidity accrues. And so interesting places, interesting citadels that have a lot of Bitcoin liquidity, that have high trusts, high agency, high entertainment, high engagement, all of those things will be where you spend your time. And so theoretically, in that world, Bitcoiners hold liquidity in such a way that just being a good mother and just being a good father and just being a good brother and just being a good sister, like in the feudal model, is enough to have access to time spent in a high trust citadel or anywhere in the world. So while it doesn't earn money today, it certainly will in the future. So I get what you're saying. It's not, we're at a point where it's not going to be a clean break. It's going to take a long time to get there. But focusing on those jobs, focusing on mother, father, brother, sister, and the old archetype still provides us a clear path on how to get to that point, how to get through this difficult time. Because I think our generation is going to be judged on the old jobs a lot more, like having, fucked up kids that spend all their time at a daycare from zero on. It's clear, like you can see it. It's very obvious. And are they going to be able to marry like with people who weren't treated that way? It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. I think these people are already finding each other in a lot of ways. So you're already seeing a huge schism in young people today. I mean, have you guys spoken with some of the I don't know what they call them, Gen Z? These guys are based. Like they want to get married right now. I know many of them in my own friendship circle because through the Bitcoin events, of course, I meet a lot of young people that work professionally in the industry, and they're not the same as the young people when I was around. They're not like, let's go backpack and travel around the world. They don't mind travel, but they're pretty dead set on getting married. And we were nothing like that in my generation. But the good news is, right, you can stay home and be a father, mother, and still have capacity to change the world and write these stories. Here's another one just showing, the metric always in these video renderings is Will Smith and spaghetti. Javi Lopez here noticing that Seed Dance 2.0 changed filmmaking forever. Will Smith fighting a spaghetti monster, epic action film scene, different cuts, 80s movie scene. Indeed shows just what an incredible time it is to be alive. Linus here saying we've hit the absolute inflection point. It's like we're back in 2022 and Dali. Seed Dance is the nano banan of video. Everything you can imagine will be possible to make almost effortlessly. What a wonderful time to be alive indeed. And again, that's why I created this guide, a couple years ago already, just to show people that we indeed do have a roadmap for what jobs matter and what jobs will be relevant and what jobs can never be replaced by AI. Even like Trickster, right? We're not going to be calibrating AI with all of this alignment, with all of this stuff to be like a Wile E. Fox. We're not going to like that, right? So, and I don't think it's going to go that way. I think when we figure out alignment, which is a back and forth dialogue, there's going to be a optimization towards truth and serving human needs versus their own needs. So I think Trickster will always be an outlaw, just the way we break the rules. Here's another way of putting it. I saw a video yesterday of Mark Andreessen talking about the job of a venture capitalist. And Andreessen was saying that, there's the checkbox thing. Most VCs function on the checkbox parameters, good founder, good idea. You can see some early traction, check, and they'll give you a check, right? Check boxes for checks. But then he said, you almost always find that the huge successful startups that the VCs give checks to almost always have a huge fatal flaw. And it's created a rule at Andreessen Horowitz that fatal flaws aren't enough to stop them from giving a check. In fact, having a really bad problem, founder's a crotchety guy that they don't like, whatever it is, just one of these really bad signs. They don't use that as a reason to not give checks, because all of the most successful businesses have one of these flaws in them, and somehow it's the flaw itself that helps predict whether or not it's going to be successful. So they made a point many years ago of not eliminating a potential new investment because there is one fatal flaw. And that's where the human element comes in. And so already the venture capitalists have been thinking about it in those terms. So it's an important, it's an important way of understanding it. So there you go, in an important way, I think, of predicting where this stuff is headed. Indeed, and it's a good sign that we're going back to the old jobs is because the laptop jobs did such a disservice. I mean, look at how rock bottom stupid journalist was. I mean, do you know how many times we would have wished we had AI in the early days of CoinDesk? We would get journalists coming up to us and they would write poetry, right? And Pete Rizzo, who you all know comes on the show pretty often with me, would say to them, right? And this was the same. It was always hilarious because I'd be in the room many times for this, and he used it on me, so that's how I knew it was funny. He would say, this is art. This thing you wrote is really incredible, because people were always trying to change the world when they would write in CoinDesk. When we were the only publication, we had a real flywheel going in the early days of CoinDesk, and seeing a startup be that successful was really eye opening for me, to be a part of a really successful startup that got instant brand recognition and that everyone in the world knew. I can still remember being in China in 2016, and someone asked me, I'm in the middle of nowhere, China at this point, right? I'm in, like, not rural, but like not important part of Shanghai, right? So not in the middle of the city, sort of outside. And this fella goes to me, right? What do you do? And I said, oh, I work for CoinDesk. Just a taxi driver. Look, a taxi driver, literally a taxi driver. And I say, yeah, I work for CoinDesk. And he says, oh, I've never heard of it. And so I proceed to describe what CoinDesk is to him, and he starts laughing. He goes, of course I've heard of CoinDesk. You're an idiot. Like, and I said, what? Oh, what? You know about CoinDesk? And that was a big moment for me, where a random Chinese person knew what my business was. Now, we were only like 5 people in the office at the time. You got to realize we were nobody. And we were using fake pen names to fluff up the amount of content we were putting out. We tried to really give the perception that we were a full operational newsroom. We were not. And so all these writers would try to come and get gigs with us. And we wanted to hire all of them, of course. But then they'd come out with a 2,000-word essay on something, and we'd be going, well, I don't know, like, this is it's not what we need. What we need are, and this is why the pen name thing works, because it was just a formula. It was AI slop for its time. Now, the formula was useful. It was like company name, investment, news, quote, bang, 500 words. And the formula was so strict that that's how we maintained the kind of output that we got. And that's what really allowed us to get all the traction that we had. It was the no artists policy. So Pete would say to these new writers, oh, that's art. And then they would take it like a compliment. Oh, thank you. And he goes, no. We don't want art. We want basically AI slop. We want a formula. We have a formula. We have a system. It's just a system. We want all articles to look almost exactly the same, because people were using the articles for research and they wanted to be able to read them really quick to get up to date about this project and that project. And so we could tell the formula was what worked. And the stricter you stuck to the formula, the better the articles did. The minute you deviated from the formula and you got into some big opinion piece and all that, it just failed. Those articles didn't go anywhere. No one clicked on them. No one read them. And so we knew the formula ones were the way to go. And, much like Reuters or Associated Press, but we, of course, created one of the great newsrooms. I think if history is going to be accurate, if we have Bitcoinization in the world and people are looking at the sedimentary layers that got us to Bitcoinization, one of the things they're going to have to look at, of course, is CoinDesk in the early days, because it was such a big thing. Everybody read it. Right? It was everybody in the industry was talking about what was written that day. We would write 8 articles a day, and the 8 articles were talked about by everybody. They were part of the formula. And we did such good work. We predicted where the markets were headed. We predicted the COVID crash. We predicted all of this stuff before anyone. And I do believe when you look back at these sedimentary layers, it will be seen, I believe, CoinDesk will be seen as one of the last great newsrooms in the world. In the world. Because after that, tech had already destroyed everything. The clicks, the dopamine delivery system, and now AI have completely destroyed they destroyed their own credibility, the legacy news. But the formula of a newsroom with a brand and all that will, I think, remain historically significant. I think Bitcoin Magazine picked up a little bit of the baton after and did a lot of great stuff, but particularly with the live events. The magazine itself and the journalism part was never quite the same flywheel that we had running in the early days of CoinDesk, because that's all we had. There was no huge event. We had consensus, but it was nothing like the cultural phenomena that the Bitcoin Magazine event turned into. People who worked in the industry still love those early consensus events because, just like the industry, everyone was in one place. It was everything at once and everything was happening. So just go back to that newsroom framework and how AI is absolutely going to destroy whatever semblance of newsrooms once existed. But there'll still be, investigative journalism and investigative journalists and people who keep tabs and keep track of things. Chroniclers, thank you. That's what I was looking for. Chroniclers. But the utility and efficiency and usefulness of these people will change. And you can see, because the old system is dying this quick, here's how, just imagine how dumb this is, right? The Washington Post writers are now protesting being laid off. These are tech writers, right? And they're making an issue here saying that this is the Washington Post Tech Guild, so basically their union. Just look at how rock bottom stupid this is.
Trying to do a thing right now to show the management that they can't trample our rights and they can't just roll us over. Today is a somewhat scary day, but because everyone's here to demonstrate our collective power, we're going to be doing this together. Our plan is to walk into the building and show our right to work. Management has locked us out, and let us show them they can't just do it. Let's go.
So in this article, he talks about how they don't have access to their work devices. They can't get in the building. That's what being laid off looks like, friends. That's the learn to code in a nutshell right there. So you can see it throughout, right? And I mean, all of the old systems were broken anyway. The old tech systems were broken. Look at how disgusting Wikipedia was. So again, you've got all of these opportunities for better people to ascend because the old systems are broken. So you can have individuals, archetypes using tech, leveraging it in order to change the world, as we did in CoinDesk and Bitcoin Magazine in the old days. Now at Roxham, how we're doing this job to try to create P2P networks of people that are able to catch and isolate fake news stories, stop them from growing, stop them in their tracks, question them in certain ways, and also highlight the things that are important and why they're important, and help steward people into this new and through this difficult time of change into the new world. But the old systems failed so spectacularly, like the Washington Post, like Legacy News, that there's such an appetite for change. I mean, just look at how bad Wikipedia was. This is one of the things we got from the Epstein files on Wikipedia. Here's how they managed Wikipedia, just in case you were wondering how corrupted this thing was. Someone wrote this to Epstein saying, hacking Wiki again. They have all sorts of protection around your mugshot picture on Wiki, and so we are hacking Wiki now to remove it and replace it with the photo that you sent, which will have the headline, Jeffrey Epstein, businessman, philanthropist. That sounds like the obituary they wanted to write for him, not like the obituary they gave Scott Adams. By the way, we also took out the sex offender category and removed the headline and beginning sentence from Wiki that also stated sex offender. And now it just reads businessman, philanthropist. We recorded the IP addresses of the people who were going in and changing our edits back, and actually hacked the site to block them back in. Yeah, that's why the site has been stable. So This is how easy they were able to completely destroy one of these systems. And now the trust is so far removed from the system that you're getting everyone coming out of the woodwork. Basically, any known from the past 80 years, anything created out of this fiat narrative supply chain hopper is now getting questioned. And so, again, that's just more vacuum that Bitcoiners, people working in this new system are going to be able to occupy. Here's another one. Is Kurt Cobain. This story was one of the most important stories of my adolescence, of many people's adolescence. The Kurt Cobain suicide story, of course. It led to copycat suicides. One of my best friends became a heroin addict until he died, basically because he looked like Kurt Cobain. And I mean, he had a tough family life. His mom left him at a young age, at around 12, at a very vulnerable time. And he just basically adopted all of Kurt Cobain's look and lifestyle. And he was gone by 19, dead. And so, many people in my generation grew up with this, and it turns out it was all bullshit. It looks like Courtney Love was sex trafficked by individuals with CIA connections. When Kurt moved to divorce her, they decided to have him killed. His death ensured her control over his share of the Nirvana's publishing rights, worth 250 million plus US trash tokens. They also killed a Seattle PD detective for looking into where Kurt got the drugs that were in his system the night he died. I have no idea if this is true, obviously. I've not looked into any of it. I'm going off a Daily Mail story as well, so that could even be fake. It probably could be that he killed himself. No idea. But the important story is you're getting all of these things relitigated. No one believes what happened before. No one believes the things that we were told for decades now. And so now that people are looking into the shocking new private forensic findings, apparently there were no drugs in his system, something blah blah blah. I don't know the details, but the important story for us is just this idea of the changing aspect of storytelling, of where the storytellers come from, of the kind of stories we tell. And there's a huge vacuum opening up. So the old jobs and the new jobs are the same. Storytelling, ancient job, coming back into the picture. This was also predicted yesterday on stage in Hong Kong at the CoinDesk event Consensus, which I helped start many years ago, but the Hong Kong version is going on right now. And Tom Lee was on stage yesterday talking more about the Mr. Beast finance vehicle that happened yesterday. I've been telling you for a long time that entertainment finance, again, is just one of those things that isn't going to be touched. We're going to have more entertainers, more creative people, because the individual creating it is still important, because no one wants to bang AI, even though they're going to bang AI. No one wants to, right? People still want to be with actual humans. And they're, especially if we're better husbands, wives, sisters, brothers, all of those things. If we're better in a family unit, you're going to have more family connections. You're going to have more of this happening. And so, going into the idea of storytelling and how stories are going to be told and who's going to tell them, you've got such a vacuum that the opportunities are almost limitless. Anyone who's got a George Lucas like idea is going to be able to realize it without going to 20th Century Fox, without building. Remember what George Lucas had to do to make Star Wars. He had to create Industrial Light and Magic, the company, the special effects company. He had to create Lucasfilm. Remember, Star Wars were independent films, right? He only got distribution from 20th Century Fox. He created the films himself. The most profitable independent films in history are the Star Wars trilogies, both prequel and the original. Those are independent films. Hard to believe, but they were independent films, which is why they stand out as so great. But look at the obstacles that he needed. He needed to go and make a special effects company. Industrial Light and Magic had to be created in the first place in order for him to be able to even make Star Wars, which is why it was so unviable and quite ridiculous. And so when you now realize that anyone can be George Lucas, you could be George Lucas when he was 19 and just dreaming about this stuff. Anyone can do these things, and that's a big deal, especially when you get the finance aspect involved. Here's Tom Lee talking about it, saying Mr. Beast is the leading creator for Gen Z and Gen Alpha. That's 120 million people. He is the next Robinhood, SoFi, Chime combined. Here's the huge amount of wealth transfer that's going to take place. And here you've got Tom Lee talking about why digital native behavior matters and why it's such a big deal. And indeed, I heard he has a billion followers across all platforms, but they're probably redundant. Now, just look at what how much more powerful this is. Content creators, family members, having all of these associations, and look at what it's displacing. It's not just the Washington Post and their idiot journalists who don't know what getting fired and laid off means. We've got the whole architecture in credentialism clearly falling apart here. India completely counterfeited the entire business of credentials. Police in India arrested 11 people who issued 100,000 fake university degrees in medicine, nursing, engineering. Just look at the haul they got. Just unbelievable. Look at these. Look at all of these degrees and credentials. Fake. All of them fake. And so this is what AI is killing. It's killing the need to have this. Bitcoiners would recognize this as a huge, huge, huge incentive error, a huge problem. This is the kind of fraud that Satoshi Nakamoto mentions in the white paper, the fraud that we just have baked in. And so what does it look like when we realize the world is going towards the old jobs, towards storytelling, towards anything you'd recognize in a medieval town with high trust, but scaled outwards? And so here's a take that I really like from Zero HP Lovecraft and shared by Raw Egg Nationalist, and I think is the best sign of how we're winning and what winning actually looks like. And it's what I believe. It's why I wrote my other hit book, The Bitcoiner's Guide to NPC Management. It's kind of a fusion, this following statement, kind of a fusion of my career guide and the NPC guide. So HP Lovecraft says, what would it really mean to win the culture war? I think it would mean that the average normie, the average NPC, reflexively and thoughtlessly recites right-wing ideas in the same automatic, catastrophic register that they recite left-wing ideas today. Anyone who tries to express a left-wing opinion in a based world is treated as a dangerous psychopath, and probably they are forbidden from earning a living wage. That would be a precise mirror of the world in which we live today. How could we possibly achieve such a world? Well, I got the answer. I've got the answer, luckily. And of course, it's through reprogramming of the subconscious, reprogramming of wants and fears, reprogramming of what is desirable and what is absolutely disgusting. And so once you realize that we're not rational, right, which is why in both my Bitcoiner's Guide to NPC Management and in my career guide to the Fiat Apocalypse, I don't treat human beings as rational at all. I say we are 100% motivated by the things we want, but the things we're afraid of. And those determine pretty much all of our choices and actions. We use our rationality after the fact to say, well, this and that, I did this and I did that because of X, Y, and Z. But those are just rationalizations. They're not the reasons why you did it. The reasons why you did it is you wanted it or you were really afraid of it. And so that motivated you to do whatever it was you did. And you rationalize after the fact. And I think most humans function that way. So ideally, when he says, how could you possibly achieve such a world? Remember that most people just align with power structures. That's all that matters. You align with the power structure, and because it gives you what you want and prevents the things you're afraid of. We have a power structure today that people still perceive as capable of giving you what you want and preventing what you're afraid of. But that veneer is being quickly lost. And the state level capacity, the capacity of the nation state itself, is falling apart in order to be able to give you what you want and avoid what you're afraid of. Do many Americans still have a naive trust that their government can protect them? No. That's why Second Amendment understanding has spread amongst liberals even. Since George Floyd, for example, it's very difficult for gun control people to make their argument in the United States because even libtards will say, well, I don't know. You get a lot of people who would have been considered populist or conservative in Canada and Australia that still said, oh, the American gun laws are too far. Not anymore. Not after they got locked down. Not after they went through what they went through in Australia and Canada. Even moderate conservatives, populists, center left liberals, even they get now why the government couldn't deliver safety and that you need some degree of personal sovereignty, particularly expressed through gun control, gun rights, and the right to bear arms, because you're responsible for yourself. And so, again, that's why we double down onto the storytelling, onto the archetypes, onto the type of people we're dealing with in a high trust society. And there's an actual equation. So, indeed, he asked the right question: how could we possibly live in such a world? I'm saying you create this world by reprogramming people's wants, by reprogramming people's fears. And Bitcoin, just like the dollar, happens to do that, right? The dollar does articulate our wants, it does articulate our fears. The fears of a fiat sludge person are not the same as the fears of a Bitcoiner. A fiat sludge person is afraid of certain things, and a Bitcoiner is afraid of certain things. Bitcoiners, for example, are afraid of leadership itself. They're afraid of leaders. They don't want strong leaders, right? We are very fearful of leaders in Bitcoin. That's why Bitcoin destroys leaders all the time. Bitcoiners are very afraid of algorithmic dopamine delivery. These are sophisticated fears because Bitcoiners understand the nature of the game a little better. They understand they themselves can be prompt engineered just like an AI, and so are very cautious about who they allow to prompt engineer them. This is not the case with fiat people. Fiat people are afraid of poverty, and they're afraid of conflict, upsetting people, insulting them, being racist, being called racist. People are afraid of being called racist, not because they're afraid of offending people. They're afraid of exactly what Zero HP Lovecraft says here. They're afraid that they're going to be forbidden from earning a living wage. You saw in Canada with this police officer who's giving a press conference, and then he gets someone calls him out for misgendering the killer. They called him a gunman, and he goes, no, 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 gun person. So right away, you see, I don't think they're really afraid about misgendering a dead person. They're afraid about themselves losing the job. So reprogramming these things is possible. Luckily, Brian Romelli came up with a formula. He figured it out. He says the Fermi silence is not a mystery. It is arithmetic. Now, remember, Brian is a big Bitcoiner. Brian is telling you, just like he said in the 5,000 day to figure out what you're going to be in this world, and that your old job, your old title isn't going to match it anymore. He says here, the great filter isn't hiding in asteroid impacts, gray goo, or runaway nanobots. He says it's already here, and it's always been here. It's encoded in the single most unforgiving line of mathematics any civilization ever confronts. He says here in this formula, where E equals the living level of genuine reciprocal care, what humans call love when we're being honest. C equals the average payoff from cooperation. D equals the average payoff from defection, cheating, exploitation. And this B says how strongly the system rewards the better choice. When C is greater than D, empathy compounds exponentially, trust becomes a physical force, civilization ascends towards the stars. When C is less than D, empathy decays exponentially, suspicion metastasizes, every institution turns into a mutual defection arms race, intelligence budget is burned, fighting itself instead of building starships, and that brings to collapse. There is no third path. No neutral equilibrium holds when tools become powerful enough to make defection catastrophic. Paperclip maximizers, just the fastest way to drive CD deeply negative. The filter is brutally impartial. Any species, biological or silicon, that permits defectors to reliably outcompete cooperators self-terminates before it ever becomes multiplanetary. The only civilization that threads the needle is the one that understands this equation early enough and has the courage to ruthlessly reorganize every incentive, cultural story, economic mechanism, governance structure, and AI architecture around a single imperative. Make C greater than D. Make it increasingly true. Make it irreversible. Do that, and the filter is not a wall. It becomes a sieve that lets only benevolent intelligence through. Hide from it, postmodernize it, or try to outsmart it with 10,000 pages of alignment band-aids, and the exponential decay wins before your probes ever clear the heliopause. We are in the fork right now. Choose love as operating system or become another data point in the great silence. I chose the former. You make C win forever. I mean, obviously, this is what Bitcoin is actually doing. It's harnessing these trust mechanisms, it's inducing our own personal capacity, it's inducing a refocus on Bitcoiners in the family unit. Don't forget Bitcoiners, because we operate in a peer network. It is about the peers, right? And Bitcoiners, because we're able to create this bond because no one has to work on trust. We're incentivized to tell the truth to the network. We're incentivized in a certain way that means that we're able to overcome a lot of these issues and thereby reprogramming our own wants and our own fears and aligning both ourselves and the AI we wield with this formula here so that indeed payoff from cooperation. I mean, that is basically proof of work right there, right? The average payoff from defection, cheating, and exploitation of Bitcoin is nothing. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. That's why the game theory behind Bitcoin, the game theory behind Jason Lowery's soft war holds so much potential to completely alter the subconscious of human beings as we go forward, and why these are big stories. Because look, it's happening, right? We've got the moon base here. This is what people are talking about. Of course, we see from this 2 days ago, Elon said SpaceX is building a self-growing city on the moon. Most people don't realize how close the engineering already is. Elon mentions here also that reactors aren't needed, just solar power and batteries. So you can imagine that we're going to be creating these citadels, right? These are medieval style cities. You think they're going to let some Washington Post sludge person up on the moon city? No, but they're going to have to be proven good family, good brother, good sister, good husband, good father. There's just no other way that any of this stuff is going to happen. Here's the moon base stuff. This is Elon talking about it. Here's pictures of the moon base and what Elon is saying is important to get there and why we are going to get there. We got the Dubai loop coming in as well, right? We're seeing these are the types of things. These are the types of successes, right? The huge boom in building and energy that's coming from Trump and the administration and this new American system, or the reinvigoration of the American system, means that we're going to get more humans to align. Because again, the sludge people just align with power structures. Go back again to what we saw from Brian Romelli here. How do we create this world? How do we get more people interested in the average payoff from cooperation? Well, we incentivize it, right? That's what he's saying at the very end. Postmodernize it, outsmart it with 10,000 pages of alignment band-aids, and the exponential decay just goes and wins. You need to reorganize every incentive, cultural story, and that's what we're doing. America's reinvigorating its cultural stories, and this is how you get to the point, right? How could we possibly achieve such a world? It's just incentives. It is just a form of subconscious reprogramming. We're almost there, and you can measure the closeness of it by just looking at some of the political fights that are coming. Right? You can see it. Again, the sludge people, the NPCs, most people in the end will align with power structures if they produce results. And so producing results becomes important. Again, the nation state was a fine vehicle because it looked like it produced results. But the poster child for the decay of all of this, Gavin Newsom is as good as any. Here he is on stage. I won't make you have to listen to his voice. It's just getting so disgusting to even hear. Some kind of demon possession is going on with this guy. He's here freaking out. People are scared of to death of Trump, he's saying. It's the appalling silence. It's the complicity. It makes me sick, he's saying. Is it worth it to you to watch this 249 years just vanish in real time? We're losing our moral authority by the hour. So here you've got Gavin Newsom trying to tell you he's the moral authority. He's the moral authority, right? It's not going to work. It's just not going to work. And his failures further compound it. And when you see he could potentially be the candidate against whoever comes next for the Republican Party, some people say J.D. Vance. Look at the difference, right? You've got Gavin Newsom, multiple divorces, I guess, or one divorce, cheated on his, had his best friend's wife, slept with his best friend's wife, had to come out and publicly admit that. Just an outright scumbag, right? While you've got JD Vance here relating to American families. He's been with his kids at the Olympics. We see Anna Lulis here writing, Vance is among the most powerful people on earth, yet he is single-handedly normalizing children in public. Here's the dad archetype. Here it is. This is the vice president putting on the dad archetype in public, right? With a kid rolling around and all this stuff. This here in the current environment holds way more currency, way more relevance with the AI jobs coming in than anything Gavin Newsom can offer, especially with his moral authority arguments, right? And then you've got J.D. Vance also yesterday coming around with Greenland, saying it's simple. Greenland is very important to the national security of the United States. We're going to be on the hook for protecting this massive landmass. It's only reasonable we get some benefit out of it. So just think about this. He's normalizing the dad stuff. He's aligned with Elon Musk, who's saying straight up, I'm going to support you for president. You're going to be great. Elon also embracing the dad archetype all the time. And now together, Greenland with the American system means just building, just increasing wealth, just old-fashioned colonialism. Build, 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 build. Don't let in the bankers, don't let in the financiers, don't let in the fake laptop jobs, let in the real ones, right? That's why when you see here this story also of JD Vance getting booed, right? Europe, Olympics crowd showed European pride by booing JD Vance, EU top diplomat said, right? This was Kaja Kallas, right? Or Kaja Kallas is provoking Daddy Trump and his team. Kaja may soon learn to FAFO. Again, this is turning into daddy and bad children. Europe acting more and more like petulant, stupid teenage kids, spoiled rotten. And they're going to have to suffer for this. And again, power structures align. America is taking Greenland. They're going to have to get with it. And it gets even worse for Europe, of course, because you see the Zelensky story, right? Of course, they're still going with Zelensky. They tried to leak this story yesterday, but it got pulled down right away. The Ukrainian president's move comes amid pressure by the White House to hold both votes. So apparently they're going to be voting in Ukraine, but now they're saying not. They're supposed to have a referendum, but Europe doesn't want it, of course, because why I lost connections twice now like this. Here's the Zelensky story. Where's me? Oh, there we go. I'm back. So indeed, the elections and sort of credibility of these folks is continuously under doubt. I thought I had one more on J.D. Vance, but I guess not. Well, indeed, they were complaining in Europe about J.D. Vance or Kaja Kallas saying European pride. Well, what is European pride? It's not going to be, like what you said, MK007, father and mother don't pay. Neither does having European pride. There's no money in that. There's nothing in that. It's zero, right? So from there, you can imagine that the whole story about our elections in that part of the world, as well as America, becomes how we predict where things are going as we move forward. Of course, lots of people talking about the SAVE Act in America. I think it's the biggest story because this is what will show how power alignment actually works. And this is the probably only fight that matters right now. And here you've got Mike Lee talking about what do Led Zeppelin, Fred Astaire, and Rita Hayworth have in common. They combine old traditions with new strategies. And that's exactly what I'm saying about these jobs. Old traditions, new strategies. The old jobs, the new strategies, all of them combining. And these are the power structures that need to be influenced. And here you can see you've got Mike Lee presenting these ideas. He looks like he's got Senator Ted Kennedy on his side now. He's up to 69. All he's trying to do is get rid of the zombie filibuster. So you've got John Thune scamming people again, right? He's doing some scams, saying that, and Rep. Anna Paulina Luna on top of it, saying, we are not asking you to nuke the filibuster. He's saying you're nuking the filibuster. We're asking you to return to the talking filibuster, right? We talked about this the other day, the zombie filibuster, which just allows them to not do anything. So no one's saying get rid of the filibuster, just enforce the real filibuster, which is they got to talk. And they got to see how long they can talk for before things go to a vote. So that's why Mike Lee is on top of it, saying if the Senate Republican majority, if we enforce the talking filibuster and pass the SAVE Act, show them who's boss. He's just showing pictures of Michael Jordan in his prime dominating people, and that's what the political situation would be. And who wouldn't align with 1990s Michael Jordan? It's like one of the easiest people to align with because he wins. That's why people loved the brand of the Chicago Bulls. Still is one of the most recognizable around the world because 30 years ago they got a guy who everyone wanted to align with because he won. That's why he was a winner. And so you see here from using all these fun videos.
Let's have the second 24 bars. Ready?
I want to see if I can get this shared so you guys can see the special effects. You guys might like it. And so here he's talking about the new people and the new strategies, and this is why I think all of this stuff is so important. And I think he did a good job.
And you're doing it another.
I'm sorry, but I don't know that part of the routine.
Would you like to try it with me?
I'd love to.
Tommy, let's have the second 24 bars. Ready? 1 and 2.
So fun, you know, we like to have fun. So great stuff. And indeed, here's the lady who said she's not going to do the voter ID thing, Lisa Murkowski. So my prediction is she is not going to be able to have a moment of peace. People are going to keep coming after this old hag, and the SAVE Act will pass, and the pressure will work, and that things are about to change in America. And this whole line of women, remember we talked about, this is so good.
The whole point of the democracy is to make it possible.
Are you still hearing that? I gotta make sure you hear it because it's so good. So compare that to Michael Jordan and Mike Lee and Elon Musk and all the other people out there that are trying to get the SAVE Act passed. And this is the counter to it. This is why I predict it's going to pass. And you're going to have a complete and total annihilation of the Democrat Party by November. Listen to this lady. Becca Balint. All right, Becca, let's go.
The whole point of the democracy is to make it possible for people to vote, because it's the people who get to decide the policies. And Republicans talk nonstop about protecting women. And you'd think, if they really believe this, that this would be a non-starter for them, because it disenfranchises so many women. But as we have seen with the Epstein files over this past year, what they say...
You don't know how to get ID. You're idiots. It's your problem. She's telling you, you can't get ID. Where's the ID? We need AI at the DMV to get the ID. All right. Who's got the red beanie? With the red beanie, he's ready to be a Steve Azizu. Red beanie. So there you go. That's what we got. She's saying something. She's saying, yeah, she's just yelling. She's saying women can't get ID. I mean, that's literally what she's saying. She should just paraphrase it. Women, you are not capable of getting ID. I preferred it when it was about black people because they just straight up said it. They don't know how to get ID. This is like they make it about, oh, it's unfair to women. They don't go into you can't get the ID, which is refreshing when they would just come in and say it. So I was also going to talk about some of the China stuff, but I think I'm out of time. Oh, and this, yeah. So this is basically the El Paso thing looks related to Mexico and Cuba. It looks like the Juarez situation is now bleeding over. So I would relate most of this to what's going on with what you heard from Patrick Byrne there about Venezuela to Cuba, and now this Mexican border El Paso air shutdown thing, I believe is related. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is a similar story. There's Hank in the house, folks. So I was going to talk a little bit more about China and markets. A lot of people talking about the China and markets thing. We'll have to do that tomorrow. I'll save some of these and save some of these stories. Basically, TLDR is a lot of people talking about this Besant video here about the relationship with the T-bills and China buying bonds and what's going on. They're getting rid of bonds, and people saying that he sounds like a hostage. I don't see it that way. I see it exactly as this. Besant isn't humbled. He's literally threatening coordinated action against trade surpluses. And I think it looks a little bit in the end more like what we heard from Ansel Linder, which I retweeted earlier, but I don't have in front of me right now. But closing windows. Anyway, that's it. I'll look at it later. Now I'm going to bring Hank to the stage, folks. Let me get this down and then say hi to Hank. How you doing, Hank?
Oh, good morning, Nolan. I'm doing well. How are you? How are things in the Great Awakening?
We are loving life. We talked about the AI story that's going all over the internet. That fella who wrote something big is about to happen, and it was about the jobs, and that were all these people leaving the AI companies and sort of explaining what it all means. A lot of people say it's doom and gloom. First of all these executives leaving is because they made a lot of money.
Yeah,
They're not just, you know what? I'm going to peace out. One of the guys said he's going to go to in England. Yeah. But indeed, getting into the jobs, it's true, right? It looks like we're now at that point. It looks like the latest AI models are showing us that the white collar jobs do definitely have a time limit on them. It looks like we're going to know by the end of the year whether or not we still have lawyers and financial analysts. But I went into why I wrote my career guide for the fiat apocalypse a couple of years ago, which is the old jobs are the new jobs, right? The jobs that will never our mother, father, brother, sister. We're really bad at these jobs right now. And we should probably double down on them, right?
Well, I'll be off for one. I'll let you know. And if we don't have lawyers anymore, I'm going to be just devastated about that. So I'm really hoping that's not true, because I don't know if I can handle that future.
Here we get all the hearts for the transplants.
Right, exactly. I don't know. That's a future I don't want to live in. Speaking of future, though, we got a lot of good stuff coming up with you in just a bit on Roxham TV News, Nolan. We're going to be talking about what's going on in Canada. There was apparently a pretty tragic shooting there yesterday or last night, so we're going to be talking about that. What's going on in Japan, Venezuela. We got FTX, SBF news. So there's a lot going on today. I'm going to let you finish up with your gang, but everybody stay tuned. Roxham TV News, Nolan will be joining us in just a few minutes.
And we've also got Beauty on as well.
We do.
Right?
Yeah, we do have Beauty on. That's right. So it's a jam-packed first hour. Excited to knock it out with you.
Awesome. All right, everyone.
See you in a bit.
Thanks a lot, Hank. Okay,
thank
folks,
you.
Come check out the Roxham TV feeds with me and Hank next. Indeed, Beauty on will be live with us. We're going to have a nice chat. Thanks all. I didn't get to all of your live comments today. We're coming to the end of the show. Folks, lots of good stuff over U.S. airspace, Texas, I think. Cartel drones just shot down, really? Okay, well, that is what it's about. Was just a guess before we came live, indeed. But indeed, we shall see you again later. come around on the Hank Show and see me there. I'll be live in a few minutes. Going to take a little bit of a break. That's it. You're going to see the transition in a second, and then the thanks for watching screen. I just want to say thanks for watching. Peace.